In a world that constantly demands our attention, time, and energy, we must remind ourselves that being available to everyone doesn't make us kind. It often makes us exhausted, taken for granted, and overlooked. Your time, your energy, your love, they are resources, not giveaways. Are sources, not giveaways. And anything freely available loses its perceived value over time. Think about diamonds. Rare, hard to find, expensive, desired. Why? Because they're not easily accessible. The same principle applies to your value in relationships, at work, and in your personal growth. The more accessible you make yourself to everyone, the more likely people are to stop appreciating your presence. We live in a society that promotes being everywhere, doing everything, and pleasing everyone. But chasing approval often leads to losing yourself. Instead of proving your worth to everyone, build your worth for yourself. The right people will recognize it. Being valuable doesn't mean being arrogant or unavailable. It means protecting your time, choosing wisely who you give access to your energy, and respecting yourself enough to not allow everyone into your space. Set boundaries. Say no. Focus on building skills, mindset, and character. That's where your true value lies. Your presence should be a privilege, not a discount offer. Because the moment you stop offering yourself to everyone, you start becoming rare, and the rarest people are the most valued. When you're always accessible to everyone, people begin to take your time and presence for granted. Like anything too common, it loses its significance. To maintain your self-worth, you must become more intentional about where and with whom you invest your energy. Your time and energy are your most valuable assets. If you give them away freely, you'll quickly find yourself drained, overwhelmed, and underappreciated. Learn to say no without guilt. Your well-being must come first if you wish to give your best to the world. Popularity is based on visibility. Value is based on substance. Don't chase approval or attention. Focus on becoming better, wiser, stronger. Work on your craft, character, and discipline. When you become valuable, the right people seek you out, not the other way around. People crave what they can't easily have. When you make your presence scarce but meaningful, it leaves a stronger impact. Be present, but don't be constantly available. Make sure every interaction adds value, not drains it. Setting boundaries doesn't make you rude, it makes you wise. Not everyone deserves access to your life, thoughts, or emotions. Respect yourself enough to limit who enters your circle and how much of yourself you share. You don't need to prove your value by being available to everyone. Your worth comes from who you are, not how many people you serve or please. Invest in your growth, nurture your peace, and cultivate inner confidence. When you know your value, you don't seek constant validation. Quality always beats quantity. When you stop spreading yourself too thin, you can create deeper, more meaningful relationships. Being selective about where you spend your time helps you engage with intention, clarity, and purpose. Stop making yourself a convenience. Your attention, wisdom, love, and presence should be earned. When people have to earn access to you, they treat you with more care and respect. Don't be everywhere. Be powerful where you are. In today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, there's an invisible pressure to always be reachable, to respond instantly, to say yes to every request, to attend every event, to be present for everyone at any given moment. But the truth is, constant availability comes at a cost, and that cost is often your perceived value in the eyes of others. Human psychology tends to associate abundance with less value. Think about it. When something is everywhere, it becomes ordinary, even when it's extraordinary. The same applies to people. When you're always available, replying to every message immediately, attending every function, constantly saying yes out of obligation, people begin to expect your presence, not appreciate it. They begin to assume you'll always be there, which slowly diminishes the weight of your time, your opinions, and your contributions. On the other hand, when you become more mindful of where you invest your presence, people begin to notice. They pay more attention when you speak, they value your input when you offer it, and they respect your time when you guard it. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about understanding your own worth and not giving yourself away too easily. Being less available doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means you're focused, intentional, and aware that your energy is finite and precious. When you're too available, you blur the line between being helpful and being used. People may not do this maliciously. It's just human nature to devalue what's easily given. So, if you want to be respected, valued, and taken seriously, you must start by controlling your access. Create space for others to miss you, to seek you out, to appreciate your presence, not just expect it. Your time and energy are not infinite. They are limited resources that shape the quality of your life. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying a no to something else. Yet many of us give these precious assets away so freely, answering every call, attending every meeting, involving ourselves in every situation, and catering to everyone's needs but our own. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion, burnout, and a subtle resentment that robs you of joy, peace, and purpose. The truth is, not every request deserves your attention, and not every situation warrants your involvement. You must develop the courage to prioritize what matters most: your goals, your health, your growth, and your peace of mind. When you begin to protect your time and energy, you start recognizing what truly deserves space in your life and what only drains you without adding any value. It's not selfish to withdraw from people or situations that continuously take without giving. It's a form of self-respect. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly drained because you're trying to be everything for everyone, you'll have nothing left for yourself. And when you're running on empty, even the things you once loved will start to feel like burdens. You must discern between urgency and importance. Not everything that demands your attention is worthy of it. People will always want a piece of your time, your help, your listening ear, but you must be selective. Ask yourself, is this aligned with my values? Will this move me forward? Does this nourish me or deplete me? When you build strong boundaries and say a no with intention, you create room to say yes to what truly matters. Deep focus, meaningful relationships, rest, and personal excellence. Protecting your time and energy isn't about isolation, it's about elevation. It's about making decisions from a place of clarity rather than guilt, and understanding that you are at your best for others only when you are first at peace with yourself. In a culture obsessed with likes, followers, and visibility, it's easy to mistake popularity for value. But these two concepts are not the same, and understanding the difference is crucial for personal fulfillment and long-term success. Popularity is about being known by many. Value is about being needed, respected, and remembered for your substance, not your visibility. Your visibility. Popularity often relies on external approval. It feeds on attention, trends, and the applause of the crowd. But it can be fleeting and hollow. One moment you're celebrated, the next moment you're forgotten. It's built on perception, not necessarily on contribution. Value, on the other hand, is grounded in depth. It's about the impact you create, the problems you solve, the integrity you live by, and the authenticity you carry, even when no one's watching. When you aim to be valuable, you stop chasing validation and start focusing on self-development. You invest in your knowledge, your character, your skills, your mindset. You work silently on becoming someone who adds real, meaningful impact, whether it's in your work, your relationships, or your community. This kind of value can't be faked or manufactured overnight. It's earned through discipline, experience, and consistency. The world is full of people who are visible but not impactful, loud but not wise. Popularity may get attention quickly, but it doesn't guarantee respect. Value, however, earns loyalty. People trust those who are valuable. They return to them. They remember them, not because they were always seen, but because they made a difference. When you focus on value over visibility, you may not be the loudest in the room, but you'll be the one people turn to when it truly matters. You'll be the quiet force that others rely on. You'll gain depth instead of just exposure, and you'll build a reputation rooted in substance, not spotlight. One of the most overlooked truths in life is that people value what they can't easily access. The rarer something is, the more desirable and respected it becomes. This principle applies not only to precious materials like gold and diamonds, but also to human presence, attention, and energy. And when you make yourself constantly available, always saying yes, always showing up, always answering every message or call without pause, your presence begins to lose its power. It becomes expected, not appreciated. Familiar, not cherished. Familiar, not cherished. Scarcity doesn't mean disappearing from people's lives or isolating yourself. It means being intentional and selective with your time and energy. It means making sure that your presence is felt as meaningful rather than automatic. When people notice that you're not always around, when they see that you value your own time, they start valuing it too. They listen more when you speak, they pay closer attention to your actions, and they learn to treat your time as a privilege, not an entitlement. The psychological impact of scarcity is real. When something is rare, people are more careful with it. They respect boundaries. They don't take it for granted. And that's how your value as a person increases, not by doing more or being everywhere, but by showing up with intention, clarity, and confidence. You create demand by being purposeful, by not handing out your time and energy like it's limitless. Think of your presence as a rare resource. When people realize that access to you comes with trust, mutual respect, and meaningful connection, they begin to step up. They become more conscious about how they interact with you, and they start recognizing that your attention and time aren't just given, they're earned. This dynamic strengthens your relationships, both personal and professional, because it's built on mutual appreciation rather than blind availability. Ultimately, creating a sense of healthy scarcity in your life teaches others and yourself that your energy has value, that your time is sacred, and that you are not a product for everyone to consume at will, but a person of depth whose presence is meaningful and worth respecting. In a world where people constantly demand our attention, emotions, and energy, establishing personal boundaries isn't just important, it's essential. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are gates that determine who gets access to your time, your mind, and your heart. When you set boundaries, you're not being rude, selfish, or distant. You're simply declaring that you respect yourself enough to protect your peace and well-being. Too often, people feel guilty for saying a no. They fear being disliked, misunderstood, or judged. But the truth is, the more you say yes to everything and everyone, the more you say a no to yourself, you begin sacrificing your priorities, your rest, and even your dignity just to please others. Over time, this self-abandonment leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a sense of being lost within your own life. That's why boundaries are a form of love, self-love. They are how you show up for yourself before showing up for anyone else. Clear boundaries teach others how to treat you. When you tolerate constant interruptions, disrespect, manipulation, or overdependence, you silently send the message that is acceptable. But when you firmly and respectfully assert what is okay and what is not, you invite respect into your relationships. You teach people that your time is valuable, your emotions are not to be played with, and your presence is not guaranteed. It must be earned and reciprocated. Boundaries also give you the space to grow. When you're not constantly caught up in fixing everyone else's problems or meeting unrealistic demands, you have the time to focus on your goals, heal from your past, and build a better version of yourself. They protect your mental clarity, emotional strength, and physical energy, so you can show up fully where it truly matters. People who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were only benefiting from your lack of them. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you care less. It means you care wisely. You stop overextending yourself to meet everyone's needs and start honoring your own. It's a bold reminder to the world that your life is not a public space. It's a sacred ground where only those who respect your values are welcome. One of the most empowering realizations you can have is understanding that your worth is not determined by how much you do for others, how many people approve of you, or how often you make yourself available. True self-worth is internal. It is rooted in who you are, not what others want you to be. It's about recognizing your value without needing constant validation from the outside world. We are often taught to measure our importance by external standards, praise, recognition, popularity, or the number of people who rely on us. As a result, many people fall into the trap of overcommitting themselves, constantly trying to prove their value by being useful, agreeable, or endlessly accessible. But this kind of approval seeking only leads to burnout and self-neglect. The more you rely on others to validate your worth, the more you give them control over your confidence, peace, and identity. Your worth doesn't increase because more people like you. It grows when you start liking yourself. When you look in the mirror and see someone who is growing, healing, and showing up with integrity. Self-worth is about knowing you matter, even when no one's watching. It's about recognizing your strengths, accepting your flaws, and treating yourself with the same love and respect you offer others. When you operate from a place of internal worth, you stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop over-explaining yourself to those who misunderstand you. You no longer need to prove your importance through constant presence. Instead, you begin to move with quiet confidence, setting boundaries, protecting your time, and walking away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. This kind of self-worth gives you freedom. Freedom from people-pleasing, freedom from emotional dependency, freedom from the fear of rejection. You begin to live not for approval, but for purpose. You become more grounded in your decisions and more intentional in your relationships. And most importantly, you build a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. When you understand that your worth comes from within, you stop needing to be available for everyone and start becoming more available for yourself. You make peace your priority, growth your mission, and authenticity your guide. That's where your real power lives. In a world full of noise, distractions, and constant demands for attention, the quality of your presence matters far more than the quantity. Being everywhere with everyone all the time doesn't deepen your relationships. It actually dilutes them. True connection isn't built on constant availability. It's built on intentional presence. When you are selective about where you go, who you engage with, and how you spend your time, your interactions become more meaningful. Your relationships grow deeper, and your energy is used with purpose. Selective presence means choosing your company wisely. Not everyone deserves access to your time, your emotions, or your mental space. When you spread yourself too thin, you become emotionally unavailable even when physically present. You might be in the room, but not in the moment. You may be helping others, but your heart and mind are exhausted. And that disconnect prevents the formation of strong, lasting connections. But when you show up selectively with attention, clarity, and focus, you're not just there, you're truly present. That presence has impact. It's remembered. And then it also means not being afraid to step away from people, spaces, or conversations that feel draining, unaligned, or toxic. The more intentional you become about your presence, the more you attract the kind of relationships that uplift, inspire, and challenge you in the right ways. People begin to understand that when you show up, it's not out of obligation, it's out of respect, purpose, and authenticity. That alone increases the value of your presence. Selective presence strengthens the connection you have with yourself too. It gives you the mental and emotional bandwidth to reflect, grow, and reset. Instead of constantly being caught in the momentum of doing for others, you have the space to listen to your own needs, desires, and goals. You make decisions from a place of peace rather than pressure. You speak from a place of clarity rather than chaos. And that makes you more powerful and more intentional in how you relate to the world around you. When you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you become something meaningful to the right ones. Your relationships become less about quantity and more about quality. And in that intentionality, you discover a deeper level of connection, not just with others, but within yourself. In today's hypersocial culture, where access to people is just a message, tag, or tap away, we often forget that not everyone deserves a front row seat in our lives. Your presence, your time, your attention, your energy is not something to be handed out freely like a sample. It is a privilege, not a guaranteed right. The moment you start treating your presence as something sacred, others will start to treat it with the respect it deserves. When you make yourself overly available, always replying instantly, always showing up without being asked, always saying yes, regardless of how you feel, you send the message that your time is cheap. You unconsciously train people to take you for granted. And what people get for free, they rarely value faster. But when you set a standard that says, if you want my time, you must earn it through respect, honesty, and mutual effort, you begin to draw a clear line between those who genuinely value you and those who simply use you. Your presence has emotional weight. It carries your thoughts, your experiences, your energy, and your influence. It can uplift, inspire, calm, or transform a room, but only if it's protected and directed intentionally. If everyone has access to you all the time, you leave little room for people to appreciate the depth you bring. They won't reflect on your absence because they never experience it. But when you're selective and deliberate about where and how you show up, your presence becomes impactful, even memorable. This principle applies not just to personal relationships, but to professional and social spaces as well. When people know that you're not someone who shows up just to please or out of fear of missing out, they begin to value your voice more when you do speak. They notice your presence more when you enter a room, and they treat your contributions with greater seriousness. They see that you operate with intention, and that sets you apart from the crowd. Respect starts with how you carry yourself and what you demand through your actions, not through begging, chasing, or overcompensating. When you carry yourself with self-respect, you naturally filter out those who only show up when it's convenient for them. You begin to magnetize people who respect your boundaries, honor your time, and match your energy. You must believe that your presence is valuable before others can treat it that way. You are not obligated to entertain everyone, respond to every demand, or be emotionally available to people who bring nothing but confusion or chaos. The more you treat your presence like a privilege, the more others will rise to the level of deserving it. So remember this. Your time is sacred, your energy is limited, and your presence is powerful. Don't waste it trying to be available to everyone. Focus on being valuable to the right ones. Protect your peace, guard your growth, and carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth. You were not born to be everything for everyone. You were born to be something meaningful to those who truly matter. Be rare, be intentional, be respected, not just seen. Because in the end, being valuable will always matter more than being available.